Jaya Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Damodar Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Brihvajakacharya Astottara Sata Shri Sriman His Divine Grace. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Brihvajakacharya Astottara Sata Shri Sriman His Divine Grace. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Haribo, Haribo. Haribo, Nitai Gora, Haribo. Nitai Gora, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Nitai Gora, Haribo. Namo Vishnu Pada, Namo Vishnu Vastai, Namo Krishna Vastai Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste, Saraswati Gaurvani Vichari Nivashi, Srimati Bhakti Stari. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastai Bhutale, Srimati Devamrita Swami Namaste, Vichari Gaurvani Bhakti Jaravinata Paratata Vikaranim Yasasavich Chainamaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, Chapter 1, Text number 14. What are we hearing about? The activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. A nice chapter. Text number 14. Yadvachitantyam gunakarma dhamibhi sudustarair vatsavayam suyojitah sarve vahamo balim ishvaraya prota nasiva dvipade chatushpada. Yadvachitantyam gunakarma dhamibhi sudustarair vatsavayam suyojitah sarve vahamo balim ishvaraya prota nasiva dvipade chatushpada. Yadvachitantyam gunakarma dhamibhi sudustarair vatsavayam suyojitah sarve vahamo balim ishvaraya prota nasiva dvipade chatushpada. Word for word translation says, yet of whom, vachi in the form of Vedic construction, tantyam to a long rope, guna of quality, karma and work, dhamabhihi by the ropes, sudustarahai very difficult to avoid, vatsa my dear boy. Vatsa means calf, like a little baby cow, but this is the Vatsalya rasa. The Vatsalya rasa is to have affection for someone who is under your care, like one cares for a calf. Vatsa, my dear boy. Vayam, we, suyojitaha, are engaged. Sarve, all. Vahamaha, carry out. Balim, orders to please him. Ishvaraya, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Protaha, being bound. Nasi, in the nose. Eva, like. Dvipade, to the two-legged driver. Chatahu padaha, the four-legged bulls. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is Lord Brahma speaking to Priyavrata. Not yet Maharaj Priyavrata. It's Priyavrata Brahmachari. My dear boy, all of us are bound by the Vedic injunctions to the divisions of Varnashrama according to our qualities and work. These divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. We must therefore carry out our duties of Varnashrama-Dharma, like bulls obliged to move according to the direction of a driver pulling on ropes knotted to their noses. Purport. In this verse, the words Tantyam guna karma dhami are very important. We each get a body according to our association with the gunas, the qualities or modes of material nature, and we act accordingly. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the four orders of the social system, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, are arranged according to guna and karma, their qualities and work. There is some controversy about this, however, because some say that since one receives a body according to the guna and karma of his past life, it is one's birth that determines his social status. Others say, however, that one's birth according to the guna and karma of his past life is not the essential consideration, since one can change his guna and karma even in this life. Thus, they say that the four divisions of the social order, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, should be arranged according to the guna and karma of this life. This version is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by Narada Muni. While instructing Maharaj Yudhishthira about the symptoms of guna and karma, Narada Muni said that these symptoms must govern the division of society. I believe that's in the 7th canto, right? Where Narada Muni is describing the different social orders and their qualities. He also describes the qualities and symptoms of the ashramas. Yeah, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. It's in the later part of the 7th canto. So everything's known by its qualities, its symptoms. In other words, if a person born in the family of a brahmana has the symptoms of a shudra, he should be designated as a shudra. Similarly, if a shudra has brahminical qualities, he should be designated as a brahmana. The varnashrama system is scientific. Therefore, if we accept the divisions of varna and ashrama according to the Vedic instructions, our lives will be successful. Unless human society is thus divided and arranged, it cannot be perfect. As stated in the Vishnu Purana, Varnashrama-Charavata Purushena Para Puman Vishnu Aradite Panta Nanya Tattosha Karanam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashrama. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the four Varnas and Ashramas. All of human society is meant to worship Lord Vishnu. At the present moment, however, human society does not know that this is the ultimate goal or perfection of life. Therefore, instead of worshiping Lord Vishnu, people have been educated to worship matter. According to the direction of modern society, men think they can advance in civilization by manipulating matter to build skyscrapers, big roads, automobiles, and so on. Such a civilization must certainly be called materialistic, because its people do not know the goal of life. The goal of life is to reach Vishnu, but instead of reaching Vishnu, people are bewildered by the external manifestation of the material energy. Therefore, progress in material advancement is blind, and the leaders of such material advancement are also blind. They are leading their followers in the wrong way. It is best, therefore, to accept the injunctions of the Vedas, which are mentioned in this verse as yadvachi. Vacha, of course, means to speak, words. So the Vedas are Sakshat Narayana. What is it? What is the verse that says they all emanate from the breathing of Narayana? Ultimately, all the Vedas are words spoken by the Lord, by Brahma, by others. So our words are very important, particularly for the Brahmanas. But I guess we'll discuss that in a moment. So Yadvachi, the Vedas, the injunctions of the Vedas, which are mentioned in this verse as Yadvachi. In accordance with those injunctions, everyone should find out whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, and should thus be educated accordingly. Then his life will be successful. Otherwise, all of human society will be confused. If human society is divided scientifically according to Varna and Ashrama, and if the Vedic directions are followed, one's life, regardless of his position, will be successful. It is not that Brahmanas will be elevated to the transcendental platform, but not the Shudras. If the Vedic injunctions are followed, all of them, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, will be elevated to the transcendental platform, and their lives will be successful. The injunctions in the Vedas are explicit directions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example cited in this verse is that bulls, tied by ropes in their nostrils, move according to the directions of a driver. Similarly, if we move according to the instructions of the Vedas, the perfect paths for our lives will be set. Otherwise, if we do not move in that way, but act according to our whimsical ideas, our lives will be spoiled by confusion and will end in despair. Actually, because people at the present moment are not following the instructions of the Vedas, they are all confused. Well, I can definitely confirm that everybody's confused. God. We must therefore accept this instruction by Lord Brahma to Priyavrata as the factual scientific direction leading to the success of life. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, text number 23. Yashastra vidimutsrija vartate kama karata. Nasa siddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. If we do not live according to the injunctions of the Shastras, the Vedas, we shall never achieve success in life, to say nothing of happiness or elevation to higher statuses of living. Sarvatma Prabhu was reminding me, Dharmas to Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. Yeah, the Vedas, the Dharma comes directly from the Lord. Thank you. But I think there's another verse, not in Bhagavatam, where it says that it's emanated from the breathing of Narayan, right? I can't remember at this point. Anyway, Om Gyana Timaranda, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Svaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. The Vaishnavas are also all gurus. It's in the plural. Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Stahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, in this wonderful verse and purport, we learn that the Varna-Ashrama-Dharma is scientific, and therefore it's difficult to avoid. Just as it's difficult to avoid our bodily concept of life. Because it is difficult to avoid our bodily concept of life, it is also difficult to avoid the distinctions of Varna and Ashrama. Many of us like to think that we're free. It's a popular notion these days. I'm free to do anything that I want, manifesting my own destiny. But really, our body has its karma and has its qualities. And you can't change that so easily. It can be changed. So there is some, social mobility, but it's not very easily changed. And so therefore, Lord Brahma is saying these divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. Of course, he's going to make an argument to Priyavrata that therefore you need to do your duty and be the king. But for us also, we should recognize that there are distinctions made according to our body, according to the qualities and the modes of material nature, and we tend to act according to those qualities that we have from our body. A body received from our parents, there is some sort of inheritance, but also we are raised, we are cultivated with certain qualities, again, by parents, by extended family, by communities, by society, by the world at large. And so because that quality can change, therefore it's very important to note that one's Varna is not determined solely by birth, although it can be a large influence. Let's just be honest. It can be a very large influence. If your parents are Haka Brahmanas, they'll probably raise you with the same quality. It's likely they're not going to intentionally raise you as something else. But it is not set in stone that just by birth one's social status is determined. It's always according to guna and karma. It's always what we should be looking out for, the qualities that a person possesses. Same amongst Vaishnavas, if I may be so bold. In every mention in our Vaishnava scriptures about who is advanced in Krishna consciousness, there's always recourse to their qualities, not the type of body that they have. Whether it be particular gender or race or age. There's always mention of qualities. So many places in our scriptures are describing the qualities of a person and how to recognize them as such. And that's why it's scientific. That's why it's scientific. We're applying science. Oh, sorry, just on a side note, just noticed in the chat that Sriman Taraka Prabhu has found the verse I was referring to in Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. The four Vedas, namely the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda, are all emanations from the breathing of the great personality of Godhead. It doesn't say Narayan directly. Asya Mahato Bhutasya Nishvasitam Etadi. So that's why the Vedas can be called Yadvachi. They're like words that come from the Lord. Thank you, Prabhus, both of you Prabhus, for always for compensating for my lack of intelligence and my poor memory. One time my spiritual master said I have a Kali Yuga memory and I should write things down. He said specifically, you should write things down when I tell you. So thank you for finding these verses. Anyway, so the qualities in all parts of the Vedas, we are advised to look for the qualities of a particular person. We should be looking for it not so that we can judge others and put someone down, but especially so that we can find someone to guide us in progressive Krishna consciousness. Generally, the Brahmana is meant to lead other sections of society. But how do we know who is that person? We need to look at their qualities. There isn't like a marker. Anyone can wear a little piece of rope around their neck like a noose. It's not very hard to do. But the qualities is what distinguishes a person as a Brahmana, as a Kshatriya, as a Vaishya, as a Shudra. And same for an advanced Vaishnava. There's always mention of certain qualities. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioned several times. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's so much mention of the qualities of a Vaishnava. And there's very little or none mention of a person's body as being the deciding factor, whether it be their race, gender, or age. I'm just saying, based on what I see in the scripture, and if we don't follow the scripture, ye shastra vidimurtsrija, bhaktate kamakarta, we make up something else, then there's neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. So let's look out for these qualities so that we can see who can guide me in Krishna consciousness, not so that I can raise myself above somebody else. Ugh. That's a dangerous game to play, the I'm better than you game. And unfortunately, if you were to ask me why we have failed to manifest Varnashrama-Dharma in ISKCON and inspire the rest of society to do that, it's because we're very much prone to this I'm better than you game. I'm just going to say, this is just me, Yasodeva Dasa speaking, not necessarily representing. I'm just going to say that 9 times out of 10, when someone is, I've noticed, when someone's like preaching about Varnashrama-Dharma, 9 times out of 10, this is always because they assume themselves to be at the top of that totem pole and want to make sure everybody recognizes, and it is just hard for us to make use of this sort of system in the Kali Yuga, because we're prone to jockeying for position and title and status and lording it over. But really, we're meant to scientifically, we're supposed to recognize these scientific divisions so that everyone can progress, to make the best arrangement for everyone's progress. All of the Vedic culture is progressive Krishna consciousness. Nobody should at any position think like, well, that's it. I've attained it. Now I am it. We're all meant to progress. The Brahmanas are meant to progress. The Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, the Shudras. We're all meant to progress towards pure devotional service. And our progress might not look exactly the same, because one has a body that's inclined towards certain qualities and work. They can progress in one way, and a person who has a body inclined towards other qualities and work can progress in another way. It takes a really intelligent person to see that there's different ways to go about it. That's what Varna and Ashrama is all about. It's different ways to do it. The Varnas are different types of economic status, different types of work that one can do. The ashramas are all different stances for dealing with certain desires, particularly sex desire. It's just different stances. Like when you're wrestling, if any of you ever in the wrestling team in high school, I was actually on the wrestling team in middle school and high school. Can you believe when I was a freshman, I was on the wrestling team in high school in the 90-pound division. I'd like hardly even hit puberty yet. It was like 90 pounds. The only time I ever won is when other schools didn't have a person in the 90-pound class. That was the only time I ever was successful in my wrestling career, winning by default. So anyway, in wrestling, you have different stances you take. You can take an offensive stance, a defensive stance, in different positions to combat against your opponent. So the ashramas are different stances, particularly for dealing with sexual desire. In 3 of them, just like complete abstinence. In 1, it's regulated. All of them are meant to especially deal with sex desire, because most of the other desires kind of stem from that. So not everybody's going to do it in the exact same way. And it takes a very intelligent person to see the scientific divisions and see that everyone can progress. We're all supposed to be progressive in Krishna consciousness. But if we think, well, I'm better than everybody else, then what is the inspiration, the impetus for progression? And I think this is why we're struggling with the Varnashrama-Dharma thing, in my opinion. This is Yasodeva Dasa's opinion. We are very much prone to superiority complex, thinking, well, if I'm up on this level and someone else is down on that level, and then I enjoy that, then like what is the motivation to try to work on myself and progress towards pure devotional service? Here I am enjoying being better than somebody else. That's like the whole goal of life. So it's unfortunate that we're struggling with it. As I said, my personal experience has been that 9 times out of 10, someone's preaching about Varnashrama-Dharma. Maybe not 9 times, let's say 8 times out of 10, someone preaching about Varnashrama-Dharma is assuming themselves to be the top of that totem pole. Will we ever make it manifest? Will we ever really start to apply this? I think we have the potential. I believe in ISKCON. I'm a very optimistic person. I believe that we can do it. Prabhupada did talk about it a lot. Apparently there's some references where he said something like 50% of his mission is incomplete because he hadn't sort of made this Varnashrama system work yet. So I think that we have the potential just because Prabhupada said that he wants it. I think that just because Prabhupada said that he wants it to happen, like it's there. We just got to reach out and grab it. But to really do it, I don't know. A lot of us are going to have to deal with what's going on in our heart that makes us assume ourselves better than others, because our tendency is towards Brahminical nature, Brahminical culture in ISKCON. And yet a lot of us aren't really highly qualified Brahmanas. Let's be honest. We might have taken second initiation, but to be a highly qualified Brahmana is recognized by certain qualities mentioned in Bhagavad Gita: Shamadamastapa shocham kshantirarjavamevacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahmakarma swabhavacham. I'm a lot better at saying Sanskrit than English, so let me get the actual translation here. Where is it? Chapter 18. That equilibrium. Shamo damastapa shotram. Oh my God. And here I am making everybody wait for me. You're probably thinking, this rascal, doesn't he just plan ahead? Here we go. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. It's interesting that it says cleanliness twice. Brahmanas are supposed to be very, very clean. In fact, I think I've mentioned this before, there's a great lecture about Varnashrama-Dharma by His Holiness Shiva Ram Swami. And he said that, this is him saying, so don't shoot the messenger. But he said that, a lot of us have second initiation, but, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, they can also take second initiation. You're not necessarily a Brahmana unless you manifest these qualities. He said, particularly cleanliness. He said that I know persons who can serve on the altar, worship the Lord, they can do some Brahminical work, but if I go and visit their homes and I see how messy it is, then I know they're not really Brahmanas. That's what he said. So Brahmanas is supposed to be very clean. In the verse from Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says cleanliness twice, arjavam and shocham, cleanliness and purity. So that's one of the qualities, and we should recognize, someone might like dress in some super Vedic way, no stitched cloth and only wearing the wooden shoes, and have like the perfect scripturally sound tulsi malas, and tilak is just on point all the time. But if you go to their living space and you see a bomb site, well, I'm just saying the qualities are how a person is recognized, not by their dress, not by their age, their gender, or their race. It's always mention of qualities. Let's hear some more about the qualities of the Kshatriya. Shauryam tejo driti daksham yudhe chapya palayanam danam ishvarabhavascha kshatram karma svabhavajam. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Sounds pretty cool, huh? I think the essential one is resourcefulness. There are many people who claim to be politicians, which should be a kshatriya. But what are they doing with the resources? Just giving it to themselves or their friends. So many countries of the world, this is the norm. You become a politician so that you can enrich yourself. And now it's becoming the norm in America as well. It's increasingly so. Being a politician just means enriching yourself. You take the resources and you give it to yourself. So that's not even Shudra. That's like less than Shudra. So these people are not kshatriyas because they don't have the qualities. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. They might be elected into position, but if they don't have the qualities, then they're not kshatriya. Just like a person might wear a sacred thread and know some mantras, but if they don't have the qualities of peacefulness and self-control and austerity, then they're just not brahmanas. Now let's hear our favorite. Krishi Goraksha Vanijyam Vaishya Karma Svabhavajam. Krishi Goraksha. Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas. So nice that we can actually apply that at Gita Nagari. And Paricharyatmakam Karma Sudrasyapi Svabhavajam. For Shudras, there's labor and service to others. Paricharyatmakam, service to others. It's their duty. There's so many other places that describe the qualities of these divisions of life. Like I mentioned, it's in the 7th canto. Prabhupada references actually in this purport we're reading today that Narada Muni has said that we should see the symptoms. And that's in the 7th canto, chapter 11, 12. Those chapters are titled The Perfect Society, the 4 social classes, and the 4 spiritual classes. I won't read through all of it now, but there's really nice descriptions, and it's always in reference to a person's qualities. Although he does actually say some things about how, like sannyasis and brahmacharis should dress, which we definitely don't do, because it's all like having matted hair and wearing just a loincloth. But still, it's pretty clear that the reference to the qualities is most important. So keep an eye out for the quality of a person, not so that we can judge someone, put them down, and to try to, elevate ourselves by default. That's so much of the Kali Yuga song, isn't it? The song of Kali Yuga is that, how can I be better by default? If someone else has got some problem, that makes me better by default. We're just so lazy in Kali Yuga. So lazy. And that's not me saying, that's what Sutta Goswami said, right? Doesn't he say that? Prayana Payasha Sabya Kalivasman Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Manda Bhaga Hubadrita. In this Kali Yuga, we're so lazy. We're just thinking, how can I get more with the least amount of work? How can I be better than somebody else by default? And one of the great ways is that if you see some negative quality in another person, you can think, well, now I'm better than them. I've advanced by default. No, the purpose of recognizing the qualities of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, the Shudra, and also recognizing the qualities of a Vaishnava is so that we can find someone who can guide us in Krishna consciousness, in progressive spiritual life. Everyone is meant to be progressive. There's a regress to look down upon someone else and think I'm better than you because of my social status. Progress is, how can I be my brother's keeper and help others to progress? How can I find a person who will guide me in Krishna consciousness? This is why we must always look out for the qualities of the 4 divisions of the social order. We should also recognize the qualities of the ashramas too. If a brahmachari is indulgent and having a little too much fun with the matajis, then it's simply not a brahmachari. Always mention of the guna and karma, the different qualities. But our tendency is to simplify things down to some externally, superficially recognized symbols. And it's not just like the devotees do it. It's not just an ISKCON problem. It's just all of human nature. We like superficial symbols, whether it be a race or a gender or an age or a style of dress or some sort of rubber stamping in some way. But the problem with that is that it's not so much mentioned in the scriptures. And that's what Prabhupada's saying at the end of this purport here, is that if you're doing something that's not scripturally sound, it's just a problem. It's not going to be successful. So if we're avoiding the hard work of knowing and recognizing the qualities of the Varna ashrama and the qualities of the Vaishnava, and instead taking the easy route and the superficial route of just looking at very external, superficial symbols, then there will be problems. I don't need to mention those problems, there's enough. That's why Prabhupada says here, quoting Bhagavad Gita, Yashastra vidim utrija vartate kamakartaha. Instead of following the Shastra Vidi, the explicit direction in the Shastra, which always focuses on the qualities, and instead kamakarta, we kind of make up something whimsical. Like, for example, that, you're more Krishna conscious if you never wear stitched clothes. You don't really see that in the scripture. We don't see some verse, certainly not in the books that Srila Prabhupada made for us, that said that never wearing stitched clothes is like equivalent to Krishna consciousness. Yet I've heard it from so many people. I'm picking a very timid, innocuous example. There are far more damaging examples of kamakarta, these sort of whimsical things that we make up to establish some superiority complex. There was one video circling the internets just the other day with this brahmachari boy. I'm not going to call out his name, but he was just a young guy. It looked like he was 18 or something. And had all of the symptoms of being a relatively new devotee. And he had this video on YouTube all about how he's saying like child marriage is the best. The Vedic system is child marriage. They should, marriages should be arranged before puberty and whatnot. And even if there's some philosophy to back that up, it's like, who is this 18-year-old brahmachari to tell us about how marriages are supposed to be done? It's kamakarta. It's just not for him to be talking about. And so obviously there's incensed. Oh my God, not incest. Incensed, meaning angry response to this sort of whimsical and dangerous proclamation about what is better than, and who is better for doing it this way or that way. Because that person is not qualified. It doesn't have the guna and the karma to guide that sort of thing. So vartate kamakarta, we act whimsically based on desire instead of the Shastra Vidi. The Shastra Vidi always points towards the qualities of a person and recognizing superiority based on certain qualities so that you can be guided in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, nasa siddhim avapnoti, we can't attain perfection if we don't follow the Shastric injunctions. Nor param gatim, we don't get the supreme destination. But even more important, nasukam, we don't even get any happiness. We can't be happy. Can't be happy if we don't follow the Shastra. And what does Rupa Goswami say? Shruti smriti puranadi pancharatra vidim vida aikantiki harer bhaktir utpatayaiva kalpate. If we just have something that's not in the Shruti smriti, the Puranas, or the Pancharatra, then it's just a disturbance. So it's our human nature to oversimplify things. And I think, if I may be so bold, we have a tendency towards the anti-intellectual route of just looking at very superficial external symbols as a symptom of some sort of status. It's just human nature. But in all places in the Shastra, like in the section of the 7th canto, chapter 11 and 12, in this section of the Bhagavad Gita we just read, so many places in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in all places in the Shastra, there's such explicit descriptions of the qualities of a person and their status in life. And we need to know these qualities very clearly and how to recognize them. There's no alternative. There's no substitute for the qualities that a person manifests. Dressing in some ultra-Vedic way. It's not a substitute for the quality of a Vaishnava. Told you about my friend, Dr. Alex from Ireland. Said that he'd rather eat his own flesh than wear stitched cloth. We were out doing books in LA. Sometimes it gets really cold in LA. And he's like freezing, it's like shivering, you know. I said, this is not a very attractive presentation of Krishna consciousness if you're out here torturing yourself. Why would people take books from you? You look like a madman. I said, we'll buy you a jacket. He said, I'd rather eat my own flesh than wear stitched cloth. Hare Krishna. I love Dr. Alex. I hope he's okay. Haven't seen him in a long time. So anyway, just let me summarize the point that as is described very here, Brahma is saying we must recognize it's difficult to avoid the Varnashrama because it is scientifically arranged according to qualities and work. We must look out for these qualities. We must read all the many, many descriptions in the Shastra which describe the qualities of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, the qualities of a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, and the qualities of a Vaishnava. There's very, very little mention of external superficialities like body, age, and gender. It's always manifest qualities, and it behooves us to recognize them, not so that we can put others down, but so that we can find someone to guide us in progressive Krishna consciousness, so that everybody can progress. That's why it is a scientific system. That's why it's difficult to avoid. And that's why it's also very pleasing to Krishna. Nanya tattosha karanam. Okay, I think I'll finish there. Hopefully I said something controversial enough to warrant some comments or questions. Or if not, I will just smile into the camera until we get to see Sri Shivada Damodar. Oh, we got a hand up, a digital hand from Kaylee. Mataji, Prabhuji, Behenji, you are live on the air.
Jai, Hare Krishna, Yasodeva. I just want to say I really appreciate this class. I feel like these topics are really important. And you mentioned a lot of really good points. One of them definitely is why you think, like your personal opinion on why Varnashrama-Dharma doesn't work. I totally can see this. And it reminded me of this.
I didn't say it doesn't work. I said just we're struggling to manifest it for a particular reason. I still think we can do it.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. I totally understand why. I understand. Thanks for pointing that out. Because also, I agree. There's this one Mataji. She's in Tennessee. She came to Krishna House and she gave a really nice presentation on Varnashram-Dharma. She's a teacher. Sorry, I cannot remember her name, but she's writing a book on how we can understand our natures and which kind of so we can see what kind of Varna and ashram we should enter into.
Are you thinking of Urmila Mataji in her book, Career Dharma?
Yes, Urmila, thank you. And she talks a lot because also I think another reason why you said we are struggling, another reason, like once we like get more of a feel for Varnashram-Dharma is this, we have people in certain Varnas acting in a Varna that's not according to their nature. So we can have Kshatriyas acting as Brahmanas. This is a big one actually. And so she kind of explains the dangers of these kinds of things. And so I feel like whenever she comes out with this book, everyone should really kind of look more into this. She did a nice class and she's giving classes all over. And I feel like it'd be so important. Many people, myself included, just really did not know what to do in this world. Like we don't really know ourselves so much. We need someone to help show us. So this is a really nice topic, and I feel like there's so many thoughts that came in throughout the class, but you said a lot of really nice points. And really appreciate it. Just wanted to share more about Mother Urmila, and maybe people can like get her association through books, or if she can come to make a class or something, that would be pretty awesome.
Thank you, Kaylee, for sharing your enthusiasm. Yes, Urmila Mataji, she is a genius, an intellectual powerhouse, and we would do well to hear what she has to say. I look forward to getting a hold of this book, Career Dharma, at some point. It'll help with preaching too. A lot of people, you know, they're coming along to Krishna consciousness and they want to hear, they want to try to understand this stuff because it's very interesting. Thank you for reminding us of her wonderful work in that regard. We see a hand up from Sriman Gitanagari Eco Farm and Sanctuary Prabhu, but I think it was Sri Goloka, and I think he has left the room. Oh,
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. Great pertinent points, really relevant. Some reflections as well as maybe a question.
You can disagree with me, Prabhu. It's all right. I know it's a contentious topic.
Yeah, it's amazing because I grew up kind of, you know, I wanted to be a Brahmin. You know, there was a spiritual. Yeah, it was amazing. Like, hey, look, I feel like I'm advancing if I was a Brahmin, if I was this, or if I was that. But now the challenge is it's kind of changed now. I feel like the society is going more towards position in it.
Oh, I wonder if Sri Goloka is freezing or am I freezing? Okay, so it's not me. Well, at least we can see his smiling face.
Yeah, I think that's the
It's always
temple
awkward to
room.
freeze in some.
Temple's
Oh, Hare
got
Krishna
some
Tarika Prabhu.
bandwidth issues.
Good morning.
Hare Krishna. Sri Goloka can speak from here.
Oh, there he is. He's back.
Yeah, I'm just using Parmeshwari's phone. Just
Now we're gonna have some
plug in.
audio
Just
issues
plug in.
here.
Start.
Prabhu, thank you so much for tuning in to Bhagavatam class, even though you have to like set up all the audio and the computers and stuff. It must be a real pain in the butt sometimes, but thanks for tuning in and allowing me to give class, even though you have to go through all that technical stuff. I appreciate your effort.
Apologies, Prabhu. Can you hear me okay now?
Perfectly well.
Yeah, I guess, you know, so yeah, that's one thing I kind of had a reflection on, is that as you take on more more responsibilities within ISKCON, even though it looks like a hierarchy, I find that you get more muted as you develop more relationships, you know, so more responsibilities. I find like, you know, we tend to kind of look at everything as it looks glamorous on paper. It looks amazing on the hierarchical level, but I also find that you tend to get muted in some way, you know, like because we have to serve everyone. We have to keep everyone happy. There's policies, there's standards, there's so many things. So it just keeps us busy in so many ways that we don't even look at, you know, what position we have. So if you can talk a little bit about maybe how we can stay away from the woke issues that are kind of penetrating the movement, how we should look at the qualities rather than the position. I think that's probably a little bit more pertinent in terms of what's going on in today's world in ISKCON, I guess.
Hare Krishna. I mean, I have a lot of strong opinions. I'm trying to keep it docile and diplomatic because it's a Bhagavatam class, not always the best forum for just airing grievances. But, you know, there's no doubt that there are a lot of ways that we can improve in ISKCON, especially to make things more equitable and just and ultimately progressive for everybody. I think there's a lot of, you know, we've had some history of people abusing positions of power, and there's certain cultural things that facilitate that, you know, that we turn a blind eye to red flags in certain people because we just have this culture whereby, you know, someone has to be recognized as a great devotee even if their qualities don't match. There's so many things that we could get at. I just don't feel like this is the forum for me to air my grievances on that. But as for like woke influence, also, I don't know, that's quite political. what is woke? What is the definition of that wokeness? Some would say that, now there's wokeness creeping into ISKCON because, women are being treated with respect. And I think that sort of wokeness is good. But then you can have an extreme, if we have this like ultra feminism, which doesn't really suit a lot of people also, then that could be too much. I can't, comment on every issue, but we should recognize that ISKCON is a boat and we're sailing in the ocean of Kali Yuga, and we're going to be rocked by the waves too. And, with each wave, you got to brace yourself. There isn't like one policy. I think it's too naive to just kind of like insulate ourselves against the rest of society, because then we're definitely not doing Sankirtana. But we're on a boat in the ocean, and the waves of material existence are rocking our boat also. And you just brace yourself for each wave. Each thing that comes along, we should try to use our intelligence and pray to Krishna how to best deal with it. Like issues of women. You can say, well, it's, some would say, well, it's just wokeness coming in. That's why we have female gurus. Or is it? Let's just sit down and use our intelligence rather than just completely dismissing whatever thing may be, creeping into ISKCON. Let's use our intelligence to try to understand what is the best way to progress in Krishna consciousness for everybody. I think it's too easy to just sort of dismiss any particular issue because it's inconvenient. Anyway, you asked a very broad question, so I gave a very broad answer. I don't want to get too specific also, because this might not be the forum for talking specifically about issues, but we should talk specifically about any issue that's concerning in the right forum, in the right association. We should talk about, if we have a concern about, like, let's say, transgenderism, homosexuality, you could say that's part of the woke thing these days, and there's a lot of it. There are several transgender people who come to the Bhakti Yoga Center. Several. There's just a new one we just met on Thursday. Bisexuals, and some people can just like outright dismiss, oh, it's an abomination. Brahma, it's in the, Brahma, cast off this ignorance. It's just easy to like, dismiss everything. But I think the more intelligent thing to do is consider, how can everyone progress in Krishna consciousness, including these people? In what way can they be facilitated and inspired? I think at every issue we have to approach it like that, whether they're woke issues or ultra-conservative issues. We also have ultra-conservatism creeping in. There's also nationalism creeping in. It's not just the woke parts. Nationalism is on the rise around the world, and that's creeping in too. We got more racism creeping in. People thinking that they're superior based on a certain race. And devotees thinking it too. Every issue, we had to really use our intelligence and try to think what's the best way to serve Krishna. It's 8 o'clock, but we don't see the Lords yet. But there's another hand from Kaylee, so let's see if we have time to hear what Srimati Kaylee has to say. Please.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Yeah, hopefully this is not too long. And I also didn't hear Sri Golok's comment, so it's kind of going back a little bit. But I just wanted to comment, kind of question about Vaishnavas, like the qualities of a Vaishnav. My understanding, like from observing devotees, it feels like a Vaishnav can go through the different varnas. So they can be Brahmana, they can be Shudra, they can do all the different varnas and execute them nicely, but focus on one. So I feel like these are qualities of a Vaishnav. Is that correct? Or I haven't read the Chaitanya Charitamrita where it talks about this. So I'm just kind of curious if that's like an okay observation.
Yes, thank you for a wonderful question, Kaylee. So we can end on a very positive note that a Vaishnava is beyond Varna and Ashrama, ultimately. Although some of us still need to get to that level, and Varna Ashrama might be helpful. And some of us may even be on the level of Vaishnava, but still act according to Varna and Ashram for the sake of guiding others. But a Vaishnava ultimately is beyond Varna and Ashrama. And so we recognize their qualities regardless of where they were born, regardless of what sort of body, race, or gender that they have, or even their history, even their past. But the qualities of the Vaishnava, particularly Chaitanya Charitamrita goes into detail describing 26 qualities of a Vaishnava, and they're all very sweet and very wonderful. And we should see that in the devotees. We should appreciate that in the devotees, cultivate that, encourage it, manifest it. I don't have time to read the whole list right now, but there is a wonderful list of 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. And that's the most important thing. And what's interesting is that those qualities, they manifest automatically when a person is associating with Krishna. We read that just in the last, recently in our Bhagavatam classes, that by associating with Krishna, all of the good qualities of the demigods, they manifest automatically. So that's what we look out for. I hope that answers your question somewhat. You don't need to read the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita just to hear about those 26 qualities. You can just go and read it anytime. I can find a good reference and send it to you. It's in several places, but I can't find it quickly enough right now. All right. Thank you, everybody, for participating and for tolerating the topic. Sometimes it's very sensitive because it deals with the bodily concept of life, and we're all very sensitive about our bodily concept of life. And that's why it's important to discuss. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Oh, Sri Sri Radha Damodar ki jai. Wonder if Kaylee is still here because I found the list of the 26 qualities of the Vaishnava. I'm gonna just put it in the chat. Maybe she'll see it, maybe not.
self-esteem.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Krishna Prapti Padma Vakya Chita
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Paramaham Sapariva Agacharya Asasra Shishna Esi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mara Ki Jai Jai Krishna Paramaham Sapariva Agacharya Asasra Shishna Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Vasmi Mara Ki Jai Harda Thakur Ki Jai Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaupa Gaupa Nishanathan Bhakti Gaudana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Ki Jai Shri Madhudam Ki Jai Shri Navadvitam Ki Jai Shri Kitana Shri Dham Ki Jai Gangamai ki jai, Yamuna ki jai, Shakti Lasrev ki jai, Ananta Koti Vajravinda ki jai, Grantaraj Bhagavan ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, O Glory to the Sangori Mukti, so glories. Oh, glories to the Sangori Mukti, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gaura, all glories to Shri Gaura.